Hi, everyone. Roger Connect, president of Universal Accounting Center. And today we're going to be listening to and having a great conversation with Jennifer Bauldic. She happens to actually run and operate a very successful bookkeeping firm in Canada. It is basically Jetstream Administration, Inc. And with all of her successes, one of the things that I'd like to point out is she has been recognized by Inuit such that she was identified as one of the runner-up firms of the future. So she's definitely received a number of accolades, run a successful business, and I'm excited to have her share some of her insights, which is going to be amazing. We've met numerous times at a number of conferences, so we're going to have a great conversation here. So Jennifer, welcome.
Well, thank you, Roger. I'm pretty excited to be talking to you today. And you're right, we seem to bump into each other at random at this conference or that event. And so it's nice to actually have a planned time to talk to you today. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is fun. You know, I have to admit, whenever you go to these conferences, it's always nice to see a familiar face. And as I run into people in the hallways and at the different sessions, it's just a pleasure. And when we had a chance to visit at the Profit First convention, that was beautiful, and up at IPBC. So these have all been wonderful little experiences. And now we get to chat here with everyone else listening in. So this is going to be great. So this is what I first want to start with, because I feel everyone can identify with a journey that someone's been on by you just sharing how you got started in accounting. How did you get started into the bookkeeping profession?
Well, probably like a lot of people, I was bitten by the bug. And for me, that happened in grade 10 accounting, where they showed me T accounts and how things balanced, and how at the end of it all, you knew that you had the correct answer. And so from that moment, I thought, yeah, I think I need a career in this field. And so I kind of moved away from it for a little while. You know, I thought that that's what I wanted, and started pursuing the professional designation here in Canada. At the time, I was pursuing the CGA, which is a certified general accountant. Mm-hmm. And as I went on that journey, I discovered that my passion was really with the bookkeeping, with the day-to-day operations, and helping the business owner do what they need to do on a daily basis to ensure that long-term success. So I kind of stopped that pursuit, and instead, recently went after my certified professional bookkeeper designation. And I've left out a lot in the middle there, but like I said, once I got bit by that bug and learned about the puzzle pieces and how the bookkeeping mattered, not just for the end of the year for tax purposes, but for everyday planning and lifestyle planning. And I think lifestyle planning is really where the world is moving towards. That yes, you want a job, but you also want to have an income that is going to support a life that you're going to enjoy both now and 20, 30, 40 years from now.
I love it. Well, the fact that you got bit by the bug is a common theme. So I can trust that many people listening can identify with that, of the numbers just resonating, and whether it be through employment, they found that, or through schooling, it's just one of those things where you found your calling. So here's the question I want to ask is, you caught the bug, let's say. What was the part that happened that allowed you to go out on your own and start your own business? Where did that occur in your career, and how did that take place?
That is a really interesting story, and there's kind of two parts to it. I'll try to make it as brief as possible, but I had been working with a professional bookkeeper in the late 1990s, and that's where I learned about double entry accounting and using software, whether it was QuickBooks or Sage or what have you, and thought, this is a really interesting way about being in accounting without being that designated accountant. And so that's what interested me there. And then it was a progression of 2 or 3 different jobs where I was working for entrepreneurs and helping them with their books and setting them up and ensuring they were managing their money in responsible ways. And there was a day in particular that I'll never forget, where I had given some financial advice to one of my entrepreneur business owners. And his response to me was, well, Jennifer, you wouldn't do that if it was your money. I'm not taking your advice because it's not the same when it's your money versus you giving me advice and it's not your money. And I thought, interesting. I wonder if that's true. And that kind of planted the seed as to what would I do if I went and had my own business? How would I design it? What would be the service or the product? And so he germinated a thought that translated into Jetstream Administration being born in June of 2008.
Oh my.
Yeah. And so here we are today, fast forward in our 11th year, racing quickly towards starting year 12. And that's where it all began, was I was challenged with, well, you wouldn't do that if it was your money. And I can attest today that, yes, I would have still made that same decision that I had made the recommendation on.
Amazing. Well, that's actually great sound advice for anyone, especially for us as we're working with clients. We're giving them their accounting information. They're seeing their financials. And from that, they may ask for an opinion. And ultimately, it's how we present it to them as to whether or not we're telling them what to do or suggesting options. And so respecting the fact that it is their business, that's one telltale thing, to simply say they've got to make the decision for themselves. But I like how you put it. Would you be one to follow your own advice? Is the advice you're giving what you would also do yourself with your own money? And that's an interesting lens to look through as you're actually advising someone on their business and what the numbers are telling. So that was great. I love that. That was wonderful. So tell me the second story then. You choose to go out on your own.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, the second story was in Canada, like in the US and probably all over the world, there's these very large lottery possibilities, right? You can buy a ticket for a small sum of money. You could win millions and millions of dollars. And so one evening I had purchased a ticket for one of these lotteries and doodled away that evening and thought, well, what would I do if I'd actually won all those millions of dollars? And I'm sure we've all run those scenarios through our minds from time to time. And so I had actually mapped out that I would support small businesses. I would give them bookkeeping and accounting support and advice. These were all the things that I would do. And so you can imagine it was no surprise to everyone except for me when I woke up on Saturday morning, and I was not this multi-millionaire. But I thought, if that's what I would do if I didn't need money, then that's what I should do as my career. And so from there is where I started developing the concept and the structure for Jetstream to make it what I do. So it's an old cliche that if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. But it truly is true for me, because I had designed it that if I never had to work, this is what I would do.
Well, if you're doing what you love and you get paid for it, that's huge. So I've never heard anyone, though, explain that they've taken their lottery winnings and used those to decide ultimately what is it they ought to be doing day to day. That's an interesting little story.
But it's a great motivator, right? Because how many people, we've all heard the sad stories of people that win lottery and don't know what to do with that money and end up squandering it or losing it, or somehow suffering both mentally, emotionally, and financially because of that windfall, that supposed, set for life result. And so I would encourage more people to think about, what would you do with your life if you could do whatever you wanted with your life? And that's great advice for entrepreneurs, for business owners, for employees, for anybody, early in your career, middle, or late, because there's never a wrong time to make a change in your life to improve it.
Well said. Very well said. So I have to ask, just in this figurative world, how much money did you win in the lottery to play with?
It was $43 million. And some things just stick in your head forever, and that amount. So when I do see that amount come up, for a strange reason, I buy tickets where clearly I'm never going to win the 43 million, because instead I won Jetstream. But it's still nostalgic for me, and worth a chuckle and a few dollars.
I love it. So everybody's out there doing an exercise now. If I won 43 million, what would I do with it? Well, first of all, the government's going to take their half. So there you go.
Not in Canada.
Not in Canada. Well, there you go. You
get my. Yep.
Well.
So come on up to Canada. There's another reason.
Yeah, everybody's different. All right. So here's the next question.
Okay.
You're basically now where you're at today. You've got this thriving practice offering bookkeeping services. You're working with clientele. The question I'd have is, what advice would you give to your earlier self starting the business, or someone listening now who's in that process of just starting out and beginning their firm?
The advice that I'd give to myself would be slow down. I started the practice in 2008. I was rewarded with some success and growth, and I got a little bit addicted to it. And so grew and added more employees and added more customers. And decided, when 2014 hit and we all moved to the cloud, that I was always chasing and running after what I had decided to define success as. And I didn't spend as much time as I think would have been more valuable to have a little bit more reflection as I went along. Now, maybe that's youth versus maturity. There's a lot of different ways that I can look at it. I don't begrudge myself. It's certainly not a regret. But if I was to give myself advice, I would say slow down and do a little bit more planning, especially now having the hindsight of knowing how much the accounting industry was going to change in that next 10 years, right? I couldn't foresee that back in 2008. I don't know. There's probably people that could have foreseen that dramatic change that was coming. I didn't. But when it started arriving, I just started running because I was going to keep up. I was going to stay part of it, and I wanted to be included and involved in it.
Wow. So that is very good advice, and I don't see the changes stopping. So that's a good, I think, very applicable still. So share with us a story or something that you've experienced with a client as you've seen your services make a difference or help a client in their business.
Well, some of the fun projects that we've been able to undertake over the last few years is working with customers that we started with, I'll say pre-2014 because that's when we made a hard move to the cloud. But pre-2014 where we would physically go to their office and touch their paper and stamp that paper posted and file it away in a filing cabinet. And today, still working with that same customer, but now using document retrieval, Receipt Bank or HubDoc, having Zoom calls with them instead of meeting in person, filing all of their documents electronically we use box.com here. And so the relationship is still strong and growing, but the way that we've worked together has changed dramatically. No more paper, no more filing, no more, traveling around and spending your life, in a car or commuting immediately, like you and I are today. We're very far apart, and yet we're able to have this face-to-face conversation that feels like we're across the table from each other.
Yeah.
Right. And so we've done that numbers of times over and over and over again, where working traditionally and then taking that business up to the cloud with us because of the strength of that relationship, and then being able to take it further and building it, from there till whatever's coming next. I'm not sure.
Well, just to kind of add to what you're sharing there, one of the things that I've noticed over the years of doing this, and I've been doing it now for over 20 years, is the common frustration or complaint that I dealt with years ago was that the clients were reluctant to turn over their transactions for the bookkeeper accountant to take and do the work off-site. Mm-hmm. And it was always this challenge of being perceived as an employee. How often do I go to the work site and actually with the client do the work on-site? How do I sever that so they don't treat me like an employee? Those were the common discussions, and I'm having less and less of those now as people are becoming more and more familiar with and comfortable with technology and working remotely. And so now all of a sudden, the questions have changed and evolved because technology is, I think, something that the client's now comfortable with, the accountant is now comfortable with, the transactions are less papered, and therefore being paperless, it's easier to do the work remotely. So I like how you've kind of described that evolution, but also shown how technology has been kind of an assistance to that whole process. So that's wonderful. So here's my next question. You have a thriving practice. You spoke of employees, growing your client base. What advice would you give to a peer, someone who also has right now a thriving practice, clientele, but they've become stagnant? They don't know what next. They don't know where to go to take their business to that next level. What advice would you tell someone who's become stagnant in their business and then they just don't know what the next chapter is going to bring?
That's a tough question, because I think when a business becomes stagnant, oftentimes the business owner is unaware of that. And that can happen for a number of reasons. The business owner is perhaps too involved in the day-to-day, whether it's another accounting professional like myself or an entrepreneur running a completely different business, that you get in a routine that you don't necessarily realize that your business isn't growing. Perhaps your business is shrinking, right? No matter what happens, doesn't matter how excellent of service you provide, you are going to lose customers from time to time. People go out of business, they move, their uncle gets into the same practice as you and they take it over. Like, there's a lot of good solid reasons that are not fault oriented where you will lose business, lose customers. So if you feel like you're stagnant, the very first thing that I would recommend is to stop and look at your financials, look at your customer list for the last 2 to 3 years. Find a trend, right? If we're talking about accounting professionals, we give this advice every day, every month, all year long to our customers. So going back to my earlier comments, take your own advice. Have a look. Are you growing? Are you not? Are your service levels still what they've always been? Or have you gotten into a bad habit of, oh, that's a good client, they'll understand if I don't get that report to them until Monday instead of Friday? Because if you hear that sentence going off in your head, it should raise alarm bells. Because if you are relying and taking advantage of your best customer, they will find someone else to treat them like a best customer, right? So stagnant, really, it's got to be an inward look. You need to shake yourself up and decide, okay, where am I not doing my best, or where are my opportunities for improvement, right? Then there's probably 4 or 5 steps after that, but that might be a whole other phone call.
Well, yeah. And you know what? I honestly think you just got to the crux of the matter. I think there were a lot of people now listening in who honestly just had that reality check and almost felt maybe that 2x4 hit them in the front of the face, because they may have, like you described, become stagnant or complacent with the business. And the reality check that you just gave them was exactly what they needed to realize, you know what? I need to step to the plate and be the leader I ought to be and run this business as it needs to be run. So that was perfect advice. So thank you for that. The next thing I wanted to also bring up is, I know that we've met at Profit First. You know Mike, you know Ron. Tell me about how Profit First has played into your business.
Well, Profit First has been actually very transformational for myself personally and for my practice. And when I first met Mike was a number of years ago. He was presenting at a conference that I was at, and then he resurfaced, or the whole Profit First group or organization kind of resurfaced into my life probably about this time last year through a colleague, and I were talking about it. And so I got on the phone with Ron and learned a little bit more about it, how it actually worked, how it was implemented, because I had reservations, like I'm sure lots of people do. You know, the bank accounts seem a little bit daunting and some of the other features. But I really asked the questions that I needed answered of Ron Saharian, and he answered everything. And so I thought, you know, there's something to this, because habits are really what make or break success in anything. If you are habitual in going to the gym, you're going to become fit. If you are habitual in eating appropriately, your body will reward you for that. If you are habitual about your finances, you will have money. And so the whole process and the methodology of it really spoke to me, and I adopted it immediately. Both Perfect. Personally and professionally. Now, they don't talk a lot about the personal side of it, but it does translate. And so I brought it into my practice and immediately started seeing results. I talk about it with my existing customers, and they're all on some version of it. And I think that that's important to note, that just like learning to ride a bicycle, nobody puts you on that high-speed motorcycle right off the bat, right? Yeah. And there's lots of different bikes to ride that'll all achieve the same thing. So one of the things that's been really fun for me is to craft the Profit First solution that works for small businesses like mine and the entrepreneurs that I serve, right? And that's been a fun challenge. And the team over at Profit First has been super helpful. They're always there to lend an ear, provide advice, give me coaching, shake me up if I need it. I mean, it's a real family, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
That is amazing. Now, having met Mike, I can understand why you were so drawn to him. He's an amazing man. But at the same time, one of the things that I think that you just shared that I think other people are going to relate to is, like you said, bookkeeping resonated with you in the beginning. Profit First also resonated with you. And I think you embraced it personally before you did professionally. It kind of rang true to your own business, and then you were able to kind of adapt it and take it on to your other clients. And I like how you you said that you were able to kind of mold it to their needs. That's beautiful because it is adaptable. Now, who is it that you've worked with over there at Profit First? You've spoken of the team. I'm just kind of curious. Was it Mike, or was it Billy Ann, or Aaron, or?
My guide is Aaron, absolutely.
Okay.
But of course, I'd met Billy Ann over the years just because we're both in the bookkeeping industry. So
Yes.
we've met at conferences and through Facebook groups and whatnot. So I have worked a little bit with Billy Ann, but Aaron is my guide, and she's my guiding light. I have to be honest about that.
I have to say as well, Erin is amazing. She is just incredible. And Billy Ann, I've worked with her for years. So yeah, wonderful team. And what's exciting is being a part of that family, being a part of that group, and really seeing everyone flourish is just incredible. So let's talk about the future. I know you're a little bit involved with this, with Intuit, and you do write and do things with Intuit to kind of help people on this journey. Where do you see the future of accounting and bookkeeping going?
You know, that's a great question. And what I really love about what the industry is doing is that it has really become an educator and a validator of what a bookkeeper is, what an accountant is, what you should expect from your tax preparer. And what I mean by that is when I first started in the business, a data entry clerk often referred to themselves as a bookkeeper. And a data entry clerk, someone that's just entering numbers off of a page, is a very different skill set and service provider than a bookkeeper who's interpreting numbers and generating reports and providing guidance and analysis and forecasts. And so I love that the actual definition of bookkeeper, accountant, and tax preparer are actually becoming closer defined to what the actual work is. And so this next phase is going to be a more full education to the business owners of the world. And what, just to kind of take half a step back, is that when we moved to the cloud, all of the millennials, all of the young people came on board and said, oh, I know what a bookkeeper is because they're going to help me with my technology and give me all the numbers that I need to run my finances and operate my business. So they get it right off the bat, right? But now as the world has been embracing this, I think, for me, I say 5 years. Now, maybe it's a little longer, maybe it's a little less. It depends on where you are in your journey. But for me, all of this changed in the last 5 years. And so for the next 5 years, you're going to see it refined, right? All the hard work is done. The walls have been broken down. The pieces are kind of laying on the floor. Now we're going to put them back in order and say, okay, well, when you need a profit guide, this is what a profit guide is, or a profit coach or a profit advisor. When you need a bookkeeper to set up your business and run your day-to-day and help you with your payments and your invoicing and your deposits, that's what a bookkeeper is going to do. When you need an accountant, that will also be more defined. So for me, this next future is going to be the education of the masses of the world, where we all find our space, because there's a rejuvenation of our industry, and there's going to be new titles that we've never heard of before, right? We often hear advisor, we hear pro advisor, we hear all kinds of consultant type titles, and I think that we're going to see a new wave of titles that are going to better describe the work that's getting done that will be generally accepted kind of around the world.
I love it. And that is just amazing. And I can attest to the fact that what you're describing is very true. For example, for years, I've had people who have wondered and asked, and I've reciprocated and asked them to define what is a bookkeeper, an accountant, a tax preparer. And it's interesting how varied the responses are, and in my opinion, how wrong the answers are. And so to have clarification in those professions so that especially the business owner can be more clear which they need and what expectations they should have of those relationships is huge. And if you're able to distinctly set the expectations as a bookkeeper as to what you're going to be doing, the accountant, what they're doing, the tax preparer, what they're doing, then you're going to have more happy clients because they're getting what they're paying for and what they hope to receive. So I love all that. And as you may or may not know, Universal Accounting Center for years has been teaching the idea of becoming what we refer to as a profit and growth expert. And there's something very true and substantial to that designation. And so that's something that's, I think, very important to recognize as well. So that was well said. I like that. So here's my next question. What advice would you just give to someone regarding accounting, running a business, having clientele, what would you just say to a peer of yours who's out there with the same intent and passion as you do for helping business owners?
And just anyone in general, or someone starting? What kind of
Someone
advice?
who actually has clients.
Okay.
So they're working with clients, they have clients, whether they do this as a supplemental income or as a primary income, whether they have a lot of clients, few clients, whether they have employees or not. What advice would you just give to an accounting professional who has a love to work with small business owners?
That is a great question, and it's a very broad question. So that's probably the toughest one you've asked me today. For me, the answer to that is to be involved in the community and to give back. And your give back can look a lot different than mine. It needs to be what is your own. I know that I have friends that give back through charity work or volunteer work. Myself, I've organized a meetup group. It's called the QBO Connector. And so we get online once a month and we talk to each other and say, what's good, what's bad, what's indifferent. Here's an app that we'd like to share with you. And so if you are passionate about accounting and you're loving what you do and you want to be more involved in your community, get on Facebook. There's lots of fabulous groups out there where people like to communicate. Go to conferences, talk to people. It's important to go to the sessions and to learn stuff, but you know what? The most value that I get from most conferences is arriving first for breakfast and getting to talk to 6 or 7 different groups of people before that first keynote begins, right? One of the biggest challenges about being in our industry often is that we are alone, right? You're a bookkeeper and you've got customers. So your customers, yes, you're going to talk to them and you're going to be friendly and whatnot, but you're not going to talk to them about your business challenges, frustrations, or growth plans. You need to talk to someone like you. You need to talk to another bookkeeper. You need to talk to another accountant. So my best advice for everyone in the industry or anyone in the industry that wants to grow and stay ahead with all of these changes and technology that are underway is just open up your computer, open up your mouth when you go to a conference and talk to people, right? Because there's a lot less competition than you think. People are so willing to share their struggles and their challenges and their solutions that your mind would be blown. And I think, Roger, you can probably attest to that because you go to these same conferences and it is all about sharing.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And one of the things that I think you really tapped onto that's important is there is this feeling of being alone. I'm doing this alone. I'm on my own. But one of the things that we really try to push and emphasize here at Universal is it allows you to be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And there's so many communities out there that once you become a part of them, you feel like you're actually tapping into these people who are so much more engaged than maybe you are. And then all of a sudden you glean from them what they're experiencing, and then you become that expert and you become that support to someone else. And it's just this ever evolving kind of experience. Now, one of the things that I want to do here is just because of all the things that we've talked about is I'll be putting in the description some links to a few of these things, such as how to become a profit and growth expert. I'll put in a few links regarding some groups that you can participate in. Just basically giving you some resources here to take advantage of a few of the things that Jennifer shared. So Jennifer, any parting thoughts, any last statements?
I want to say thank you for this opportunity, Roger. Like I said, it's always great to talk to our fellow accountants and our other professionals. And when you're stuck, talk to somebody. And it doesn't have to be an ask for help. It can just be, you can phone someone up or talk to a colleague and say, I'm having a tough day. Do you want to go for a coffee? Want to go for a walk? But you're not alone. And there's someone out there at the exact same moment having the same problem as you. And that means that there's probably 4 or 5 people that have already been through it and they want to help, right? So we're not competing, we're helping, we're collaborating, and let's all do it together.
Very well said. And Jennifer, I think more than anything, as people listen to this, I think they're going to see exactly what I hope, which is we're all very, very approachable and we're very real and genuine. And Jennifer, you're just one of those people that's just a pleasure to meet. And when you run into Jennifer at a conference, it's just one of those it's almost like a lost friend. It's how you've been, how are things going, and you reconnect very quickly. So thank you for making this just personable. So for everyone listening in, just remember this: if it's about accounting, it's universal. We're here to help you basically get the tools, the resources, the training, the certifications you need to excel in your career, and most importantly, get paid what you're worth. Why? Because accounting success is universal. Take care, enjoy, and take a moment to look at the resources that are in the description down below. Thank you for being on the call, Jennifer.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.